Hello and welcome to Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa. I am your host, Mikhail Tinubu. Welcome on the show. Now, a lot has been taking place in the landscape of Nigerian football recently, and some of it has indicated a positive future. And that positive future, another step was taken towards it recently as the Congress of Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, held its 79th Annual General Assembly on Sunday, 10th September 2023 at the Monty Suites Hotel, Uyo in Akwa Ibom State. And they resolved a great many things. And it all began with the NFF president in his welcome address, which he thanked the Congress for the confidence reposed in him and the executive committee members during the last elections. He praised the federal government of Nigeria, in particular, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for his tremendous support and understanding of the demands of the game of football, and his approval of a special fund for the Super Falcons campaign in the FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand for 2023, and prayed for greater support for the NFF, the national teams, and Nigeria football in general. Now, after appraising the efforts, commitment, and passion of the Akwa Ibom state government to the development and real growth of Nigeria football through its support and encouragement of the NFF and the national teams, the Congress commended Governor Umo Basi Eno and his cabinet and encouraged them to do even more as the Super Eagles are ready to make Uyo its home for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying matches. The Congress subsequently considered and approved the NFF financial statements for the year ended 2022 and further approved the Nigeria Football Federation's 2024 budget's proposal of the sum of 14,494,469,293 naira. Now, the Congress then approved the change of name of the Nigeria Professional Football League to the Nigeria Premier Football League and further passed a vote of confidence on the Executive Committee of Nigeria Football Federation led by Ibrahim Musa Gusau. A lot of this indicates that a lot of great thought has been put into it. First of all, obviously, they needed to approve the budget. They needed to approve the previous budget, which suggests that all the accounting has been done and everything was exactly as they would hope it to be. And then they further went on to approve over 14 billion naira for the next year, 2024. And well, if all of that money is used adequately and as it should be, then we should have even further steps taken towards the growth of football in Nigeria. Recently, Nigeria beat Sao Tome 6-0 as the Super Eagles ran out without any mercy, showing just the difference in the class between the two teams. And one match is not an indication of growth overall, and certainly Sao Tome isn't exactly the kind of team that we can place great emphasis on such victories to indicate that the Super Eagles are ready for the qualification rounds of for the next FIFA 2026 tournament. However, it does promote positivity. And one thing that this story highlights is the fact that a lot of the efforts that have been taken by the NFF has come with a great deal of support from the federal government, which in the past we've talked about how when the NFF is seeking approval and funding from the federal government, it becomes a federation. But when it is left on its own to its own devices, it becomes an association. It hasn't been called an association in a little while, but that's probably because it has had the kind of support it has been seeking from the federal government. In particular, this new administration of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu led team. Now, if it continues in this trajectory, perhaps football can be an escape for us from all the hardship that continues to plague our nation. I hope that it is an indication of promises that have been made will be kept. Now, to the name change that has taken place. It might seem like a small thing, from the Nigerian Professional Football League to the Nigeria Premier Football League. There is power in a name, and if you say it out loud, it can make a big difference. And obviously, a change of name is something that tends to happen when a brand tries to reshape itself. It's called a rebrand. It tries to become something else, tries to regain or gain a new perspective. It tries to gain a new image to project out into the world. And we can only hope, I certainly do, I do hope that this is what this means, that they are trying to boost the local league to an extent that it requires a name change to promote a different image, one of competence, one of success, one of growth. And if more light is shed in the course of the next few years, maybe we'll have enough transparency to say, this is what's going on behind the scenes, and we can see the benefits as they're playing out on the field across the entire league from club to club. No more owing of wages to staff, to coaches, to players especially, and maybe, just maybe, our league can start to compete, maybe not at an overwhelming international level, but at the very least, to start to compete with the top leagues in Africa. Maybe we can have more than one team from our league having won the CAF Champions League. Now, I'm supposed to have a guest on the show, Gbenga Gboyega. I wonder if he is ready to join me. Gbenga? Unfortunately, Gbenga doesn't seem to be ready just yet. But when he is ready, I'm sure we'll bring him on and we can discuss this story further. Meanwhile, it seems Manchester United continue to suffer an image crisis. In particular,
hello, can you hear me?
Oh, hello, Gbenga. Welcome on the show. It's such a pleasure having you.
Wow, I've been shouting. I was actually hearing you well. Actually, I've been following through your intro, talking about the change of name, talking about the Nigerian Premier League and the Nigerian Professional Football League. But first of all, I would say it's significant. It's also relevant because, I mean, look at the best of leagues in the world. They are marshaled by their names. You talk about the EPL, is the English Premier League. You go to Spain, is the Spanish La Liga. You go to Germany, is the Bundesliga. You go to the Netherlands, is the Dutch Eredivisie. So name comes with styling and, just like you said, branding. It's unfortunate that in our client, talking about Nigeria, we don't understand the value and the essence of having a brand name that lasts a lifetime. If you check the history of the domestic league, this is not the first time we are changing the name. And in fact, going by history, this should be the fourth or fifth time we are changing the name. This particular year, I've seen columns representing the NFF use Football League. I've seen Nigeria Premier League. I've now seen Nigerian Premier Football League. So it's all good and nice that the sports minister in company of the NFF president have come out to say, okay, we are sticking with the Nigerian Premier Football League. I don't know why the football is there, because naturally it's a Premier League. But all in all, it's significant and it's relevant that now we have an official name. Hopefully it translates to coordination and structure in the league, because we all hoped that this league would start on the 9th of September. But here we are getting reports that it's been postponed for some unforeseen circumstances. We need more, we need better, and it starts with establishing our football name.
All right. Well, you're right. When you give something a name, it starts off the development, the growth, and the direction of where that thing is meant to go. It's such a huge significance, names, which is why we tend to throw huge naming ceremonies when we name a child. And in this case, we have a football league that for decades now has been crawling. And perhaps now that it has a classification, a name that has the full backing, the support of the NFF and the federal government, and hopefully the kinds of resources that will accompany that, that this football league can start to walk and maybe eventually run and maybe catch up to the rest of the world. I wonder though, why do you think, why do you, what is the motivation do you think that has led to this moment in history being the one chosen for a renaming, a rebranding? Are we seeing a concerted, serious, and earnest effort to finally uplift our professional league in the country?
If you're coming from the context of the name, I don't think it's intentional that this kind of period was chosen. It just happened to be so. Because, like I said earlier, this same year we used different names for the domestic league. We used Nigerian Professional Football League. As a matter of fact, if you go to X, as we call it, Twitter, the official handle of the domestic NPFL. Well, now it's still the NPFL because it's the Nigerian Premier Football League, but initially it was representing the Nigerian Professional Football League. So again, it's relevant that the federation, also in company of the sport ministry, have come out to say officially this is what we are naming it as, and moving forward, this is how we are going to be recognized.
Well, recognition is key. If you were in the room, what would you say the biggest agenda would be if you were to say this is the direction the NFF and all of its stakeholders need to move in to uplift the newly renamed, rebranded NPFL, to give it a direction that starts to make sense for the rest of us?
Branding is not just an afterthought. Like I said, I don't think renaming the league at this time was intentional. It just came to be. If we want to move forward in terms of branding for the Nigerian clubs, it begins with employment. It begins with those who fill up those roles as their data management, social media guys, the guys that are involved in PR and the rest of it. Those are what we need to focus on. At the moment, out of the 20 teams participating in the Nigerian Premier League, you can count on your fingers the number of teams that are active on social media. As it stands, if not for the fact that GTI has proposed that some of the leagues will be streamed live on their platform, we have a situation where only a handful of teams in the Nigerian Premier League have active handles where we can follow live scores. Because most of us wait and it's 3, 4, 5, 6 hours after the game before we start seeing drops of details here and there. We are meant to see first hand information from your social media page. When they look at Sporting Lagos, for instance, these guys are new to the league. They just got promoted this year. But go and check out their website. Go and check out their social media handle. It's because of those they've employed to carry out those, would I say, duties. So generally, I think for the NFF, first of all, establish a benchmark for the category and quality of people you employ. Every club must have an active media officer or media department that handles both your social media, your website, and what have you. These things are the basic criteria. Just like you take licensing important, you should take data and social media important. Once that is settled, then every club knows that it's a competition to remain afloat.
All right. It sounds to me like what you're saying is that clubs in the league must take an active role or take active steps to bring further eyeballs, further engagement with their fan base. And therefore, that is what will grow the game in the country.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, you look at European clubs beyond the journalists and the media houses that go there for post-match conferences or pre-match conferences. We have clubs themselves having pitch side view of the game. Um, some of us who follow Chelsea Football Club, you see after games, you see on their website they'll tell you relieve the game pitch side view, relieve the game from the stadium, relieve the game from this angle. That's because the club's media officers themselves have positioned themselves to create content even before the English league starts creating content. So whatever the Premier League does out, whatever the FA does out, the club itself have their own content, and that's because they have hands on deck to carry these things out. So for the
Now,
Nigerian Premier League, we can't leave it all for the federation. The clubs
now,
have their.
I'm going to say something, and I hope parties, interested parties I'm about to mention, do not take it personal. I'm certainly not calling for a tax on their profits. However, when it comes to betting companies in this country, they make a lot of money, billions of naira annually, cumulatively
Yes.
across the board. Now, in the English game, the FA has taken what I would consider a step that is motivated by the fact that they have the luxury to take that step. They've decided that clubs are not allowed to. It isn't in effect currently, but it has impacted whether clubs are willing to sign deals currently with betting clubs. Right now, by next season, clubs will no longer be allowed to have sponsorships by betting companies on their shirts. And I say that is luxury because they have such huge broadcasting revenue that they can afford to say, okay, this section of money, we don't want to touch it. But in Nigeria, I believe all of that wealth being generated by betting companies, some of which is already being taxed and therefore should be considered a fund that should therefore flow back into our sports, in particular to football, which is currently driving a lot of the profits that these betting companies are having. So if that's the case, if these betting companies are benefiting significantly off of it, it means fans love their football. They want to be engaged in it. They want to have higher stakes in the outcome. Some of that money should perhaps start to be earmarked for developing the NPFL and maybe even the rest of the leagues in the country. What do you think?
So um, to to the defense of the European League, I think there's some skepticism about sponsorship from betting organizations or betting firms. First of all, it really doesn't have to do with avoiding the resources that the betting companies can offer. It's about the after effects of betting and gambling in general. You see, in recent times, there's been some campaigns about betting wisely, betting responsibly, people coming out to talk about their deals of how betting has affected them grossly negatively. So there's this conscious effort to sensitize the people on how to best responsibly. And I think one of the aftermath of that ideology is restricting the advertisement of betting to only halftime or only when there are sponsorship or advertisement after a game, not on the show. I think that's just the ideology. I'm not in the room with them in the FA, but I think what they're trying to avoid or what they're trying to curtail or manage is the excessive gambling. So they are reducing it to only televised advertisement rather than reoccurring view on the shirt or through shirt sponsorship. But
Well,
aside from that, in Nigeria, it's something you can tap into.
I mean, you could say that even lottery games should be put under the same kind of microscope because most people who even actually win lotteries go broke after 2 to 5 years, and a lot of people who don't spend a whole lot of money trying to win the big jackpots. So it is essentially the same thing as putting your money into a betting company week after week after week. And yet there is no such rule to prevent a lottery company from having their name on the shirts in the league. Regardless, I understand where they're coming from. I understand the rationale behind it. I'm just saying that for us right now, in the current state of our football, where that is not our biggest problem, growing the game is our biggest problem. Tapping into the obvious appetite from the fan base is our biggest problem. And one way to do that and to raise funds is to start looking at the kind of money that is being generated by betting companies. Look at how much money that is being generated from taxing their revenue and seeing if that money should be earmarked directly for our football league's growth and development. That's all I'm saying.